There is a popular trivia fact that sounds like a science fiction novel. The idea goes that every 7 years, your body completely replaces itself. You shed your old cells, grow new ones, and effectively become a brand new physical person. There is real science behind this. Your body is in a state of constant demolition and reconstruction. The lining of your stomach, for example, replaces itself in a matter of days. Your skin flakes off and regenerates entirely every 2 to 4 weeks. This timeline charts the varying replacement cycles of your major organs. Your liver takes about a year to cycle out its cells. Your skeleton needs about a decade to completely remodel. When you average out the lifespan of the trillions of cells making up those parts, you arrive at a rough estimate of 7 to 10 years for a full bodily turnover. But this timeline forces a question about your identity. If every piece of tissue in your body is entirely new compared to a decade ago, how do you remember your early childhood? How do you retain the specific muscle memory required to ride a bike or play a piano? The answer sits safely behind the protective fortress of your skull. There is one glaring exception to the renewal rule. Your brain stubbornly refuses to replace itself. If that 7-year cellular cycle applied to your entire body, a continuous sense of self would be impossible. The cost of a total biological rebirth would be your identity. If you are past infancy, the vast majority of the cortical neurons inside your head, the cells responsible for your higher thinking, your consciousness, and your memory, are exactly as old as you are. They do not divide. You might grow a few thousand new neurons a day in specific regions like the hippocampus to process new memories, a process called neurogenesis. But compared to the 86 billion permanent neurons you already possess, those new cells are a statistical rounding error. While your skin and stomach cells eagerly die off and spawn fresh replacements, the original hardware of your brain locks into place and stays there. Your mind is not operating on a fresh, self-cleaning canvas. The brain you have right now is the exact physical organ you were born with, aged, reshaped, and scarred by a lifetime of experiences. To see why the brain holds its old parts, we have to look at how it maps information. Your memories, skills, and personality are not locked inside individual cells. They live in synapses, the complex web of connections distributed across thousands of different neurons. Think of it like a computer's hard drive. You cannot physically remove and replace the hardware components while the operating system is actively running without causing the entire system to crash. If your brain routinely killed off its old cells and spawned blank slate replacements, the new cells would have no idea how to connect to the existing network. System-wide cellular turnover would sever those synaptic pathways, resulting in total amnesia and loss of basic motor skills. Instead of building new parts, the brain relies on a survival strategy called plasticity. It keeps the exact same physical cells, but constantly changes the connections between them. It strengthens the pathways you use often and prunes away the ones you don't. It is the equivalent of keeping the same foundation and bricks, but endlessly redesigning the architecture of the building. To preserve who you are, the brain sacrifices the biological safety and vitality of fresh cells. It chooses to maintain a permanent, aging, and heavily modified network. There is an ancient philosophical puzzle known as the ship of Theseus. It asks a simple question. If you take a wooden ship and slowly replace every single plank over time, is it still the same ship? Biologically speaking, the ship of your body is not the same one you had 10 years ago. The molecules that formed your skin, your blood, and your muscles back then have long since returned to the earth, replaced entirely by the food you've eaten and the water you've drank. Yet you feel like a continuous, unbroken person. You feel like you, because the observer sitting inside that ship never actually changed. The brain acts as a silent watcher. It sits securely inside your skull, recording every passing second, watching the temporary flesh around it go through endless cycles of life and death. Take a look at your hands, or feel your heartbeat. The tissue you are interacting with right now is a fleeting ecosystem. That specific physical matter didn't even exist a few years ago. But behind your eyes sits a cluster of ancient, irreplaceable cells. Your body is perpetually young. But your brain is your one true lifelong companion. It was there when you took your first breath, and it is the only physical part of you that will stay until the very end.